We have the Council of also of Quran. Council Let's give him a round of applause. We also acknowledge Chris Tybos, Kubaha of the Quran House. While the chief, let's give him a round of applause. We have representation of QwaQwa Council, Captain Andrew Kreiswood, who is on the way. They are in challenge of the car. And who says, listen. Where is Eugene White? We have headsman Russell Brown. Can you stand up? Let's give him a round of applause. We have headsman Ismail Kok. Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause. We have headsman Abraham Farouk. Let's give him a round of applause. We have head woman Marit Benson Obtain. Let's give a round of applause. Thank you very much. After acknowledging the presence of the leadership of QwaQwa and also the leadership of Iran. My name is Sam Mashineni. I'm the chairperson of the portfolio committee. With me here, I have members of the committee that I'm going to introduce so that when you move out, you know who were the people from the provincial legislature who came and meet with you. On my right, on a lighter note, I always fight with her. That's the chief whip of the provincial legislature. She's Mesa Ramanelezi. On my immediate right is a member of the portfolio committee of the provincial legislature in this committee, Ntatele Tuka. On my immediate left, we have a member of the committee by the name of Gosimuze Chabalala. On the right of Ntate Chabalala, we have Honorable Budwana. Next to Ntate Budwana, Honorable Isa, I will not raise other issues. Then we have officials. We have lady. Have interpret all of you that are at the back, other path. Whoever that will be speaking, if you don't understand, you hear the voice, that will interpret it. Right? I want to appeal that when we are done, please return them back. We love them. Let me warn you, you don't have it that way. Next, not only has you, it will not even give you any voice. So the best thing you need to make when we are done. Right. We are having a gentleman who is an advocate that is going to do the presentation. Advocate Norm, can you stand up? Advocate Norm is the one that is going to do the presentation. When I'm done, I'll be giving over to him to the presentation. Presentation about. Presentation about. Being is. Now, I want to take this opportunity to say, I are here. Here in the church government. Every group in South Africa has to. This time around, we are talking about honor, apples of flames. There. Now this one seeks to take us closer for them also to participate in the House of Traditional Leaders. Am I understood? So he's going to present. Hopefully, because we have moved from Cabo Futa, we went to Fezile. Yesterday we were at QwaQwa, and today we are at Habib. That's why we have collected people across Habib to be part of this. All the people have to be represented in the House of Traditional Leaders. As traditional leaders themselves, they have to be represented. And that's why we are here. You see the bill, it talks about a number of areas. I'm not going to dwell in that. The advocate is going to dwell on that. To say these are the areas that are critical, that we think the bill are important. Because remember, when people speak, when they speak and raise their concerns, there must be an answer, isn't so? Now, an answer is a bill, but a bill is not a law. A bill, it's like these members. These are that were collected and then developed into a bill, but before it can be an act, the people must then speak. That's why we're here. And say, yes, the right move to go. And I want to appeal everyone that is going to sit. There are 3 chairs here. I'm not so sure why there are not 5. Maybe it's because they are running short. There are chairs here. Can I quickly request another 2 there? 1 and 1, so that they can be 5 here. In that way, we'll do things faster and quicker. So when I take hands of people that want to make an input, you will come here and you make your input. You please start by introducing yourself. At the end of whatever input you'll be doing, you will indicate to say yes, or you can start with I support the bill or I don't support. Right? Am I clear? Then from there you are done with your input. So you speak with the language that you like. The reason why we have interpreters is exactly that people must be able to express themselves in the language they feel comfortable with. There is this thing of people wanting to speak with the other language, to speak English, as you don't understand. There is no language in South Africa that is above any other language. They are all equal. Right? So please express yourself in the manner that you would want after the presentation. So that's why we are. And that's why we are here. Tomorrow or on Tuesday, we are going to Tabach. We will also be meeting with QwaQwa there and meet with the public that is there. Things will be honestly sort of whether you are head or you agree that QwaQwa should be included in the house of traditional leaders or not. The bill seeks to open the door that they should be part of the content of it. That's what you will be used on. So, let me start. Allow that they know, advocate know, to make the presentation. Fasten your seatbelt. The plane is moving. Now it is moving. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the chairperson, for the esteemed branch, for some leaders who are here to present as well as other QwaQwa communities who gathered here today to listen to this important presentation that is going to be made. This chair, I'd like to apologize for having the rest improperly. But I've already received a termination from the chair of chiefs. I should accept that the admonishment. acting in good faith. But even as may, I don't think that would derogate or detract or take away from the presentation that's going to be held. The quality and the essence of that presentation. First of all, what brings us together here, what brings us some Vandahi, so spoke is the unbelieving function that's on our web, which is called the 50 provincial and local houses of traditional leaders amendment. As a chairperson stated, there's a difference between a bill and an act. Bill is it's an act that is only it's a process that leads towards the acceptance of the bill or of the bill in order to become an act. What it really means in brief is that all the comments that are going to all the representations, all the concerns are going to be taken together, looked after, into very seriously, and then found relevant, will be incorporated together with what is already in the bill. That's a paper in front of you. And if it goes well, then the legislature is going to make a recommendation to the legislature that it should be adopted to become an act. So this bill, in essence, it seeks to enable the Khoisan communities to be part of the provincial local houses, provincial, and local houses of traditional leaders, which is situated in Maluti-A-Phofung. So for a very long time, before not to present, the Khoisan community, Khoisan leadership has been left out from the mainstream legislation that accommodates or that encourages or treats or recognizes traditional leadership in traditional communities. So, in this bill, there are two key operational concepts, namely is a recognition and a representation. So, before you could be represented in the House, traditional leaders, you have to be recognized. So recognition is a totally separate process which requires certain requirements that must be satisfied before the community and its leader can be recognized. Then once recognized, the Premier will issue a certificate of recognition, and that certificate will be published in the Provincial Gazette, so that everyone will be aware and should take note that this community and this leadership has been recognized in terms of the provincial applicable legislation. So this bill seeks to amend the current one, which is the Free State Provincial and Local Houses of Traditional Leaders Act of 2017. So in that act, there is a curious commission, as I speak of the Khoisan community and Khoisan leadership. You don't want to go into history as to why the Khoisan community has been left out. There are various reasons which are not really for the purpose of this meeting. An important thing about this meeting is that this bill seeks to bring the Khoisan community, Khoisan leadership into recognition umbrella. The traditional leadership legislation takes its cue from the national legislation, which is the Traditional Leadership and TKLE, Traditional and Wholesome Leadership Act. By the time this act is a 2019 act, but it was said that it came into operation on the 1st of April 2021. When it first started, right from its onset, it included the Wholesome community and set out clearly the requirements for the population. And as a national legislation provides a framework within which the bedrock against which all the provinces must legislate. It sets national norms and standards. So provinces by then had their own respective pieces of legislation. So they were required to follow the national cue by bringing Khoisan leadership and Khoisan communities into the legal fold. So since its inception, that national act has been active for a number of years for various reasons. And this challenge culminated in 2022 when it was finally successfully attacked by the Constitutional Court. But before that, as I stated, provinces were requested and asked to improve their legislation, to amend their legislation, to make a provision for the recognition of Khoisan communities and Khoisan leadership. Hence, the birth of this bill. This bill also had its own challenges. It was drafted in 1991, then it went before the legislature, but unfortunately, it couldn't go through. But it was resuscitated this year to get onto the tracks again. If you look into the bill, there's an insertion, subsection 3A on page 3. The entire subsection 3A1, the insertion, lists the requirements that the Khoisan community, when they apply for recognition, the traditional community, and the level of traditional leadership, the level of leadership which they want to pitch that leadership at. So normally the recognition is stated, goes that way, the legal stated. Community comes together when there's a need, especially for existing vacancy of a new vacancy. Because in this case, we are applying for recognition. Normally the Royal House comes together, then within 90 days, they identify someone who must ascend to the leadership position. Unfortunately for Khoisan community, legislation only makes provision for 2 leadership positions. That is the senior Khoisan leader, as well as the branch head. So within that 90 days, the community comes together and identifies someone who must lead the community. Then we must take notes of that meeting. Then after that meeting, and after that person has been endorsed, they send the memo as well as the record of the meeting to the Premier for consideration. Premier will then task the investigative committee which has been established in terms of the LA to investigate all these claims that are in those requirements, indicate to make sure whether those claims, those requirements authentic. And if the community is satisfied that all these requirements are genuine, then it will make a recommendation to the Premier that as a committee that has been statutorily established to do its work, we have done it, then kindly recommend, it makes a finding first, the legitimacy, the existence of the community, and it also makes a recommendation that community be recognized as well as leadership level, because as I stated, there's a hierarchy of leadership in the Khoisan community. If I may go back just a little bit back regarding the matters concerning to Khoisan. In the TKLA, there's a commission that is established. I think it's established in terms of Section 58 of the TKLA. This commission has been statutorily tasked to look into all matters that pertain to the Khoisan community, Khoisan leadership. As I stated, the TKLA came into effect on the 1st of April 2021. So this committee, it is called Commission on Khoisan Matters. It's been given a lifespan of 3 years from the inception of coming into effect of the Act, which was the 1st of April 2021. So that period expires next year, on the 1st of April 2024, whereafter all the inquiries, all the applications for the recognition and representation of Khoisan communities will have to be sent to respective provinces. Currently, in terms of the framework legislation and provincial legislation, and also in terms of the hierarchy level of traditional leadership that exists in the province, the kingship and queenship, the management and regulation thereof, the recognition thereof resides with the national parliament, with the national parliament, with the National Department of Traditional Affairs, and is the premier, not the premier, is the president who recognizes kings and queens. The other lower rang of leadership positions, which is the traditional leaders, headmen and headwomen, their recognition done by the premier in terms of the process that I have outlined earlier. But in between traditional leadership and king and queenship, there's a default position that came. It's a totally new leadership position. It's called principalship. It occurs when the older form of leadership, which was called paramountcy, which was by then, granted by the previous regime, to certain leaders who avidly supported the system, for one reason or another. The first day there were two of them. It was the Mota and Mopedi. There was a provision in the Act for the TKLA, the Traditional Leadership Governance and Framework Act 2003, which made the provision that when those paramountcies, which were pitched at the level of the kingship and queenship, when those paramountcies, the incumbents died, and those positions were reduced, were degraded to the position of principal leadership. So when the incumbents died, the coming incumbents were deemed to be principal leadership, principal leaders. That's how a principal traditional leadership position came to be. A totally new leadership position. And there's serious challenge for you, Khoisan communities and Khoisan leaders, in terms of the provisions of the Act, to seriously look into it, take a serious look into it, examine it, see where it doesn't meet, your requirements, whether look into it where it has deficiencies, where you can assist the government, to ensure that those deficiencies are addressed and are taken into consideration, so that when the bill is finally enacted, those concerns are addressed. I've just talked to someone. What's the name of the person handling? Oh, he's going to send. Just wanted to get the phone number of the contact person in the commission, a direct person who rounded up provinces, to explain to Khoisan communities how those forms should be filled correctly. Apparently, there's also a serious challenge, because those forms are not the same like those that are applicable to other traditional leadership positions. They require a number of intricate, information. I just want to think if there's anything that I've left out in my presentation. And also the question of those leadership positions that were granted to Khoisan communities. Committee received, how can I say, just challenges, comments from people from the hearings in QwaQwa and in Kronstadt, especially those that relate to, violation of their constitutional right, which some of them are honest comments. I guess I stated some of the comments were based on discrimination, on the violation of equality constitution. So those are some of the things that you have to reconsider and look into them. And just to make a comparison, that the government here is trying to bring us into the fold, but even the bill itself has got also some challenges. There are some form of things that that need to be addressed, especially that relate to constitutional provisions. You must remember there are some rights that are in constitution that are entrenched. They are inviolable, cannot be violated. Even section 36 of the Constitution does not apply to them. So those are some of the things that I would seriously urge you to consider, and maybe in trying to resolve those issues, together as it would also employ the services of historians, anthropologists, as legal people, in completing that form, application form correctly. Maybe chairperson, as time progresses, I shall have the number of that person. I think that ends my presentation. Thank you very much.
There you are. You have the benefit of someone that has taken you through the bill, the amended section 1, section 3, 3A, and up until the end. These are the areas that have been amended. That's why it's been brought to you. Akere, that happened, an act, when it's promulgated, every time when there are concerns, then there will be the bills. So this one, it's a bill focusing in these areas to accommodate the Khoisan community. That's the area. You will see it will talk about the withdrawal. You will see it will talk about recognition and also the definitions. If here when I opened, I spoke about the Khoisan, I spoke about the QwaQwa, I spoke about Korana. There is also Nama or sense. People. That's a definition that is being proposed. You need to indicate, is that conclusive enough? Is that conclusive enough? That's what you have to say. Because if you go to the section of recognition, and advocates have spoken about that, when you fill those forms, they go deeper. You can't all of a sudden wake up today and declare yourself as a Khoisan. Can't. On a lighter note, ungathatha chance. That's why there is that particular emphasis on registration. So that, and an advocate, I like what you indicated to say, if you have some difficulties, as Khoisan on other issues, it's important to consult the historian that can assist you. Because you know, we are generations. We may not understand some of it. Consulting the historians is definitely to help you. Very important for section 4, so that people that term themselves Khoisan, whereas they are not, we must begin to deal with that, or the law must begin to deal with that. I thought that I must just to add on what advocate said, just to bring more light. Self. We are now entering the process of your inputs. This whole had 2 sections. This section left and this section right. Everyone has to speak. I'm going to request those that want to raise their hands. And here are the chairs here, 5 of them. Sit them in order here. Then I'll give them inputs. So I want to request all of you that you take that. Speak to. I made a special request in the other area that I have got. Please speak to. That's why very slow in explaining this, so that our people can understand. And I then therefore see the hands. Can you raise your hand? Everyone has got on this section. I'll come on this. on this section? Those that want to make inputs? I count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I've got hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Please move, go to the chair. So you are number 1, she's number 2, you are number 3, and you are number 4. So you can occupy the seat in terms of my numbers. Follow the numbers, follow the numbers. Don't take the chair of a number that is not yours. You are not number 2. Thank you. Is there anyone that I'm leaving behind on this side? Looks like there is. Are you raising your hand? Raise your hand so that I must know. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and you are then 5, and then you are number 6. Please come forward here, occupy their seat so that when number 1 is done, number 2 can go close the number 1. If number 2 is done, number 3 and 4 can go so that all of them can go. We are in order. Thank you very much for your patience and support. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman of the session. Good day, ladies and gentlemen from the Provincial Legislature that come and host this event for us today. It says, QwaQwa members, leaders, Kuba, headman, chairperson of the Free State QwaQwa Council, Mr. Franz Kralsuk, every one of our members. I'm very happy to stand here and make a presentation on the bill on behalf of the QwaQwa Nation. My name is Abraham Faro. I'm a member of the Free State QwaQwa Council under the leadership of Captain Andrew II. I'm from Tuli. Chairperson, thanks for giving us this opportunity once again. But really I has to raise this concern that this opportunity was not meant to happen now. We had CODESA, we had everything, and it was never discussed. The input of the QwaQwa as the indigenous First Nation of this world, of South Africa. Today we had to come and try to make damage control by addressing a bill that is very, very arrogant for that matter. And that wants to tell us whether we can exist or not. To me, I have a problem with right from point 3A of the bill. And if you look at the bill as it is, everything that relates to QwaQwa is being squeezed into the original national bill. There was no place for us in that bill. But rightfully say, like you said, Chairperson, we are trying to correct that. But now it's going to be very hard. In the same sense of saying that we are trying to correct that, you're also making it very, very difficult for us to be QwaQwa. As a matter of fact, according to this bill, we don't exist until the Premier and the province or the government decide, yes, now you qualify to be a QwaQwa, Korana, Nama, or everything. According to this bill, Captain Kralsuk was never, Dunki Kralsuk was never captain of the QwaQwas. Same with the Kubas before him and everyone else. But that's not my point. My point is this. The requirements that we need to meet here, Chairperson, it's outrageous. To the mere fact that it says, observe distinct established QwaQwa customary laws and customs. I assume it was supposed to be traditions. Now, as this thing evolved, we evolved as the nation itself, our customary laws and our traditions were taken away from us. by virtue of the places where we used to practice it and the places where we used to go to was taken away. It will be unfair from this commission to ask the Bushmen of the Kalahari to come and give proof that they practice it when they took the Kalahari and make it a national reserve. Where do they practice the culture, tradition, and customs? Because the place where they has to do it is taken away from them now. All of us are sitting in townships, in suburbs, where we are not allowed to practice this. Or even if we want to practice it, as the QwaQwas, we depend totally on medicine from the field. We depend totally on going to the caves and all those things. All those places been given to us, or it's now heritage sites that we cannot visit. We don't have access to practice our customs, laws, and tradition. Because the places that we have to visit, because our laws, customs, and traditions evolve around nature. Nature has been taken away from us and we've been put into townships where we now have to prove that in Betuli, this community is a QwaQwa community. Whilst the same Betuli consists of this thing that they say we have to integrate where everyone has to apply on the same housing list and you get next to you will be a Xhosa, Sotho, and as it goes, we will be displaced all around the world. In the few that we are, the minority that we are, is being displaced. So now it's only getting worse and it's only getting more difficult for us as Khoisan to prove these things of the customary laws and traditions. Because the places where we're supposed to practice it is being taken away from us. Like I've made example with the Bushman. Like I've made example with the just like any other Khoisan nation, we depend on nature to exercise our customs, laws, and tradition. Then it says, we need to have a proven record. Government and everyone before us consciously erased our history as the Khoisan by not allowing us to exist beyond 1994. It got difficult from us, so much so that the classification of us moved from being Bushmans, Hottentotte, QwaQwas, and all those to be coloureds. Because it was convenient, being a coloured, we don't owe you anything. You are a mixed breed of this and that. Being a QwaQwa, I have to make a claim on. For that matter, we used to have QwaQwa start. And it was never given to the QwaQwas to say, right, we have QwaQwa start, this is to the QwaQwas. But mind you, Zululand was given to the Zulus. The same with every other traditional or any other tribe within South Africa received what was rightfully theirs because why it was assumed that it belongs to them, while the First Nation, the indigenous people of this land, are scattered all over South Africa and doesn't have a homeland. This bill does not talk to that. Even the issue of restitution, Chairperson, you can go through the bill, there's nowhere that it talks about restitution for the Khoisan group. It does not address that. How are we going to be compensated? Instead, we have to fight with other groups to make claims for land that we know legally. If you can go, Chairperson, if you can go to the sea will tell you was the first human being that drinks from its sweet water, from its waters, to the fountains. If you go into the mountain will tell you which nation makes a place within its belly in the caves, and the drawings that you'll see there, it talks about us. But yet today we have to prove ourselves that yes, we do exist. Conveniently so, everyone tried to ignore the obvious facts that is written all over in nature, that the first nation of this land, South Africa, the indigenous people of this land, the owners of this land, has to be asked. My recommendation or my reference is within the mountains. My reference, if you can go to the Kudu and the Eland, they'll tell you stories that their grandparents told them how we used to hunt them in the olden days. Now they have been blocked off in nature reserve, and it's a crime for a bushman to go there and hunt them. But it's a sport for the white man to take his rifle and get a license and hunt them. Those are the issues that we as a nation are happy with this bill. It does not address us. It gives us conditions why we it's not correct, Chairperson. Whether this bill accept us as the Khoisan to exist or not, I'm a QwaQwa by birth. My mom and my dad is QwaQwas. And I'm also a Khoisan by association, because I associate myself with the bigger picture. So that was my input on this thing. I'm very unhappy with the bill, but I believe the bill must be there, get our foot in the door, but not on the conditions set to us, Chairperson.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Maybe, as I was sitting here and listening to the submission, you also opened my mind that the bill must also speak to recognizing the QwaQwas. That's an input, and a serious one. The bill also talk on allowing Khoisan practice culture. Huh? And it comes from you, not. That's why it is. You make an say this one, not talking to me. 3, you need to be given that the bill must. You are talking to people that are right. That's an input. Land restitution. Spot on. Spot on. These are the issues. QwaQwas must be given the land. That's what you are telling me, not me. It's you that the bill must speak to. Huh? Wonderful inputs. Yes, Mama.
Goeiemiddag, goeiemôre. Ek sal so tussen Afrikaans en Engels sal ek my input gee. Bring dit asseblief terug. Moet dit nie huis toe vat nie. Ek wil graag almal groet, al die leierskap, die voorsitter van die kommissie, al die leiers wat hier is, al die staf van die wetgewer. Ek wil julle almal groet en vir julle sê, is almal welkom in Edenburg. Al die Khoisan, Korana en QwaQwa leiers, almal wat hier teenwoordig is, julle is almal baie welkom. En al die protokol observe, ons Free State QwaQwa Council voorsitter, leier Frans Kraalsoek, en leier onze kaptein Andrew Kraalsoek die tweede in sy afwesigheid. So, my chairperson is to speak on the issue whereby you have addressed us and then you've made mention to say that no language is above any other language. And that one, I highly appreciated for you to make that opening remark, which then brings me to the bill as such. The bill has been distributed for this public hearing only in English, Xhosa and Sotho, if I'm correct. It's not in Afrikaans. So I'm not sure will we be able then to make correct inputs since we were unable to dilute what is in this bill in our own language, which is Afrikaans. Then secondly for me, the advocate was speaking and he was giving the presentation and explaining what this bill and the amendments that we are currently discussing here entail. It all boils down to the Premier. The Premier will decide who is Khoisan and who is not. Mine, you've mentioned to say that we should not just be Khoisan because it's something that's fashionable now. I'm from Oppermansgronde. Ek is 'n nasaat van Solomon Opperman. En dis waar my roots is. Ons het grond in Oppermans, ons het plase, ons mense is Oppermans gronde. The day when I was born, on my birth certificate was written Cape Coloured, because the apartheid era wanted me to be a coloured from Cape Town. So mine is to say that I have an interest in this bill because it speaks to me and it speaks to our people and it speaks to the QwaQwa people of Oppermans gronde. Like the previous speaker said, that our people are being removed from the land. Now in Oppermans gronde, you will sit with land, but with no government help or assistance or anything, because now the premier comes in to decide on what should happen and how it should happen in your traditional cultural area. So the advocate was saying that the premier, once there has been a position made, like Captain Kralsuk, that is how I understand it, will have to return to the premier and tell the premier that Maritza Benson Fortuin has been appointed as headswoman of so and so and so. Then it means the premier must investigate, or he must put an investigative team together to check the requirements. And then that investigative team must go back to the premier and make a recommendation. Firstly, my question is, in that investigative team, is there any Khoisan representative? Will there be? Because for us it is to say that you can't speak on our behalf if we are not there to represent ourselves. You can't. And even to make mention of the table in front, I don't see any Khoisan representative in the portfolio committee as they are sitting here. So which means then we are speaking and we are at the mercy of the portfolio to understand where we come from and how we want things to be done. But if you also don't understand, not to say that you don't want to understand, but in your own space, how will it then be related to become law so that it can suit us? That one is very, very dangerous, very dangerous. Because the bill will go to Parliament, it will be signed off, and then we sit with things that has been related to Parliament, not through us. On another point, the advocate was speaking on us as QwaQwa and Korana Khoisan. We must appoint researchers, we must appoint people that will assist us in critical positions so that we can be able to fill in those forms that must go to the premier and so forth. For us currently, we are not getting any financial benefit from government, nothing. And if we can check how much a researcher costs, the salary levels, we are not able to afford it. So it means then we will not be able to comply to what government is requesting from us. We can't, because now we will always be sent back and forth with a form that we don't understand. We don't have the capacity, which then government can make those positions. Let us make use of those ones that's in government to assist us, if that is a possibility. Or rather than give us the financial benefit so that we can appoint our own people. And then my other point that I want to get to is that traditional leadership or traditional culture or the traditional space in South Africa is subjected to the political environment of South Africa, and that is a fact. We can look through the history books. The former president, may his soul rest in peace, Nelson Mandela, made a commitment to the Khoisan, recognized the Khoisan. But since the day that he has done that, up until today, we are still busy trying to get ourselves being recognized by the leadership of the country. So for us, it is to say that, yes, many of us are political leaders. We are in political spaces where we are. But for us, it's to say that I don't have to come here every time to make sure that the leadership knows I'm QwaQwa. I can't do that every day. It's the same like any of you will have to come and you'll have to prove every day to us you are a Sutu or you're a Xhosa. And on that point, we should be very careful because the political landscape can either make or break the traditional council Khoisan decisions. Because premiers, MECs, ministers, president, we don't sit where they sit. We are not in the advisory positions of them. So at the end of the day, if I'm leading tomorrow as the president and I am Cape Colored, then it means that I will make decisions based on how it will benefit whoever it will benefit because of the political arena that we are in and so forth, and because of the minorities. There is this minorities in the political space. And the minority should actually also be us. It should be us in that political space. We should be part and parcel of that minority. So when political decisions are being made, we are part and parcel of that. We must be on our back foot to make sure that wherever this thing leads, we are there to give guidance, we are there to make inputs, and we are there to make sure that the leadership of the day, whether it's the premier, the president, or the MEC, that they know of us. And we shouldn't be able to go every day and prove I am who I am. Thank you.
Once again, the second speaker, spot on. Spot on. The third, number 3.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you for the opportunity. My name is Bosch, actually from Bloemfontein, and I'm a Corona. I'm going to speak to, when I address you, as any. What's worried me about, I do understand the bill, and I do appreciate it. It's a step forward for us, but that's a big but. As a previous speaker has enlightened some of the facts, I'm going to get further to it. This political arena, does it include the so-called brown people? Does it? Because if I look, and I'm going to be funny now, look at the application forms. On the application forms, previously was stated white, black, colored, Indian, others. But if you look now at it, white, black, others. So where does it leave the brown so-called people? According to the bill, we as the brown people originated from the Khoi and the San. We had to apply for opposition that we know is legit to us because we are born in that position. We don't apply for it. We are born. As the previous speakers had mentioned, if you want to know me, go to the mountains and you will see me. Why do we have to apply? This bill, does it cover the Khoi and San in reality? Does it? Or is it just a political ambition? Though that we had to step out and all right, we had encouraged the so-called brown people to be part and parcel of this setup. If you look at the Eastern Cape, according to this bill, they still got problems with it. And since the start of the acknowledgement, as the previous speaker had mentioned it, from Mr. Mandela, our previous president, with all respect, it was mentioned that the Khoi and San must be opt in the government. We are how many years now? Almost 30. And still, we had to struggle to get there, which is rightful by birth, our right, our land, our culture, our language. What happened to that? But our government said, as the speaker said to this morning, there's no language above other language. But our QwaQwa, are they acknowledged? No. So why must we always come and then start and address ourselves as we had to address this bill for acknowledgement as the Khoi and the San, or the QwaQwa, the Nama, the San, the Korana, the Cape Khoi. So we had to apply for a position which the government will have to say in it. We apply, but they can be said, no, we don't recognize you. The second point, we are here to listen as a panel. You get leadership born out of bloodline. But no, the bill is talking about elected leadership. How is it going to happen? How is it going to work in government? So as ek daarna kyk, sê dit vir my een ding, konflik. Want waar gaan die besluitneming lê? Gaan die premier tyd het om al die fraksies wat daar gaan gebeur, gaan hy tyd het om dit uit te sort? Want sy hande gaan vol wees met dit. En nou moet hy probleme uitsort, in plaas van te kyk wat is nodig vir die upliftment and progress of a community. I thank you.
One of the things that I think we are realizing is that the inputs are opening what was discussed and talked about since 1990. And when I look at you, it is very painful. The people are saying the system has removed us from our own motherland. One thing that we must, if we are prepared to deal with this matter, is that we must deal with this. That's why I said earlier on, the two, and including the third spot on. Because these are the critical issues. When we talk about representation, happy Osman on this. When we talk about representation, these are the hard questions you are going. If you say representation, two ways that we can take is that we don't want representation, or It is long overdue. We want it. But you see, this bill with the inputs that you are making, you are already sensitizing those that are collective to say those that will be represented as it must us that says who and who is going to represent. A mistake that you must never do is that when you say it must be people that we know, and at the end of the day, you give the people that are going to represent not you. It's not going to help us. You raise fundamental issue. People, including the indigenous, the QwaQwas, must be given their land. That's what you are saying to me. Huh? That's what you are, and everybody's listening to that. It's not me that have said that. You have said so. And one of the things that you challenged, I don't know how other members have taken it, that on this chair, front chair, there is no QwaQwa here. But it's indeed challenging. Huh? It's the truth. There's no QwaQwa here. Don't feel ashamed. It's true. Doesn't mean that you are attacking us. It's true. It means we must correct things. That's what it means. I don't feel ashamed when you say correct 1, 2, 3. No, I don't feel ashamed. Why should I feel ashamed when you say ons het nie die land wat ons weet? Why must I oppose that? I'm not going to do that. I thought that it is important as we understand democracy, that when decisions are taken, you all know, must be majority of the Khoisan that this is the way to go. Why in the areas that I've gone through, I have pleaded, please speak with one voice. Because that I emphasize the majority part of that. Because you are equally the indigenous country. And you deserve those rights. I'm not pleasing you. Just telling you the facts. These are the input that you said you want to see bill. Right? 4.
Am I audible? Yes. No. Good morning, Chairperson. I think you want to try to throw the water on me so that I can be calm. And in this nature of this leader who's standing here, I will never be able to be calm. Thank you for that input, Chairperson. I want to recognize all the leadership in this house present. Firstly, I want to recognize Leader Kok from Koffiefontein. Secondly, I want to recognize Leader Abraham Faro from Betuli. I want to recognize Maritza Benson from Koffiefontein, Oppermans, and Tromsburg. So she's in 3 areas. Then I want to recognize Leadership Sean from Jackersfontein. There's a headsman there. Also want to recognize, if I look so around here, I want to recognize Leadership Taibos from the Corona House, the Free State Corona House. I also want to recognize Leader Benjamin, also there from the Corona House. Very important, the grafter of the bill, Leadership Beck, who's seated here. We drove many years in one car together in a Kumbi, all over South Africa to see what we see today. So we grew up in this struggle. And I just told him now a few minutes ago, this was the hall that we play in many years ago. I also want to recognize Leader Russell, who's there also from Springfontein. I want to recognize the leader from Philippolis, celebrated last week, 200 years of existence of the QwaQwa community in Philippolis, the oldest area and the first parliament of South Africa there in Philippolis. And that is where the leader Menkis is coming from. I also want to recognize Leader Dots, very brilliant young lion. And I think the spirit of Malema, you must take it forward so that this community of the Koyan Sun must relive in you. Leader Dots from there. But mainly leadership, I want to recognize Captain Johannes Kraalsoek the late. Captain Johannes Kraalsoek, Dunki Kraalsoek started many years this organization in 1974. The first member that he wrote up as a QwaQwa member, it was in 1984. And in 1984, that leader had a vision to say, we have also a place in South Africa and we also existed. In 1833, Adam Kok II and Jan Kraalsoek, just next to where you look over here at Bethany, had signed a treaty that this land belongs to you and this land must never be sold and never been hired out to anybody. And that is what has happened. Next year we will celebrate 190 years of struggle, Chairperson. 190 years of struggling, of being dispossessed from our land rights in South Africa, of which we call ourselves the indigenous peoples of this country. Next year we will celebrate 50 years of existence under the leadership of the late Captain Johannes Dungi Kraalsoek, that the Free State QwaQwa Council is existing. In this area, the Free State QwaQwa Council have more than 20 to 25 branches that is existing. In Bethany Farm, I want to recognize also their leader, Gavel, who's also looking at the QwaQwas now. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Mr. Frans Kraalsoek, the chairperson of the Free State QwaQwa Council, the secretary of the National Koyan Sun Council, the deputy chairperson of the Pan South African Language Board, the member of the National Heritage Route of South Africa, the Koyan Sun Heritage Route, a born and created QwaQwa of this country. I was born QwaQwa from the day one, and there's no confusion or deviation about it. Today we are seated here, and thank you for the presentation. We know that there's a constitutional court announcement about the bill, and we know that process must first unfold. But we appreciate today the discussions with the Free State. I like the banner. The banner say an activist legislature that champions democracy. An active legislature that champions democracy. And a democratic state don't exclude indigenous peoples in their right. As an indigenous person of South Africa, we were supposed to be the first to be restored under a democratic state, because what did we say in the Kliptown Resolution, Chairperson? We have said we recognize everybody who fight for land. We recognize everybody who fight for our cultural diversity. We fight together. And Chairperson, I remember the days that we were running together with the flags and we were fighting this apartheid to get us right where we are today. We fought together, but after 30 years, I'm still sitting this side of the bench and I'm not experiencing the benefits of our struggle that we fought together in this country. Leader, allow me then to go quickly through our presentation. We have delivered a written document. The inputs that we are having here for the bill, Leader, is historical names of the Koyan Sun communities must be restored. Let us not be confused. Our parents, our great-grandparents, our old people, and our customs, we know what did they called us. They either called us paramount chiefs, they either called us captains, they either called us chiefs, they called us headmen or headwomen. And these historical names must find expression within the bill. Although there's similarities about chiefs and so on, but our historical names must not be destroyed, then our history will be distorted. We say in the bill here, Chairperson, it says, customs and traditions versus the previous laws of apartheid which discriminate against the Khoi and San communities. Let us be fair. There are 5 Khoi and San communities, the QwaQwa, the Nama, the Cape Khoi, the San, and the Korana. 5 of them. So I can never be a Khoi San. I am one of the tribes. And you know, Chairperson, that is why we fought in Oudtshoorn for unity. To say, let us create a united name for unity. And we say, the Khoi this side and the San this side. The Khoi, who are we? Majority in this house is today the Khoi community, the QwaQwa and the Korana. When you go to the San, the Twi, the Twem, and the Kam, and the Komani San is from the San. Then we say the Khoi and the San, let us rejoin and make it one name. That is why you have the birth of the Khoi and the San to fight for unity. But we say, apartheid laws, Chairperson, you know, many years ago, in the 18th centuries, there were no policies and laws that recognize our existence. None of them. So based on the act, they say the traditions and the customs will be the major factor that will determine our recognition. But we are saying, Chairperson, we can't. We must make a leeway because our damage is too deep. In 1935, Benjamin Kraalsoek, who was the last Tiri Ekora speaker in this area, passed away. In 1938. And he was the last Kora speaker and the Tiri speaker in the Free State. Look at that many years. And he was translating in the court these processes. We say the bill to make reference to the Khoi and San communities as first indigenous peoples of South Africa. I mean, this is not a debate. We can't debate issues that is factual issues. Chairperson, I appreciate the fact that you say, let us look also at the table in front and to see that we have to get correction there. Look, the indigenous people's rights and the United Nations declarations to say that indigenous peoples of a country must be recognized and must form part of policy formulation. We can't sit as a legislature today and we don't have one of us there. And we are not minority. We are as big as we can, as our heart can be. We say the history of self-determination to be in line with the ILO 169. Now, I will keep on one to have your attention, Chairperson. I say here, Chairperson, the history of self-identification to be in line with the ILO 169 on self-determination of indigenous peoples. Chairperson, many of our community members will go and do now their research and discover that I am from a QwaQwa origin, a Kora origin, or from a Tum or from a Twe. But we say self-identification, when I identify myself, we must bring this ILO within the context of the bill. Section A, B, B, it states here, you'll read it there. Over the years, members' information kept on the application form was the SFGC. I've just explained, the FSGC is existing for the past 50 years. Now, what we've done in the past, Leader Taibos know, Leader Benjamin know, Leader, all of us we know, we have kept our membership of our leaders on our own manner and our own way of writing them down. Now the commissioner comes with an application form which deviate from the format that we have from 1984, 1975. Now we must comply with the new law of getting that type of application. So we want the commission to look into that and take our application forms. Leadership, it is going to be very difficult with the POPI Act from the commission. Because the POPI Act says nobody can give their IDs, you cannot give your address, you cannot give your personal information, just like that to any stranger. Now, how do you expect us to get it right if we don't tweak that part of the application? Section 3B says, the merging of branches in the same local area. Leadership, this one is not very clear in the Act. If you looked at Tromsburg, and if you looked at Springfontein, and if you looked at Oppermansgrove or Philippolis, what is the radius that the bills dictate when the Premier take a decision to say that is one area when he merge it? So we need to come up with a determination to say merging of branches. How are we going to do it? Because leadership Mariska Benson cannot understand the customs of Springfontein. and Sprungfontein don't understand the customs of Philippopolis. And how can you merge branches if you don't make proper provision to say how far they will be from one another? I proposed that we look, for an example, a 30 kilometers radius out of each other, to say that that customary community, indigenous community, exists on their own in their respective area. That is the same that is happening in Act 24 of 2009. Leadership, chapter 9 of the Constitution is very clear on traditional leadership. Very clear. But just look at this fine line, how we confuse ourselves. If you look at your phone today and you look at the word council, what does council mean? Council is an administrative function who do administrative duties. But what is, according to chapter 12 of the Constitution, it says is traditional authorities. Now, what are those leaders today who are sitting here? You know, even the way they are sitting, their authority and their power has been destroyed from them because there's no customs installed in these processes to accommodate their leadership where they must sit and where they must be accommodated as indigenous peoples. And they are just sitting in the group with their communities. But when you go to the traditional leaders of the Nguni communities, then there's special places being created to acknowledge this leadership. That is why I'm saying, if we dilute our authority to a council, we will have a problem. We will receive this treatment that we are receiving today to just throw you anyway. I thought that you all came with Mercedes-Benzes here. Or I thought you came all with Bentleys here. I thought you, even some of you came with a helicopter here because of your customs and your tradition as per the Constitution. But today, how did you arrive here? You arrived with a taxi. That is the problem leadership that we must look into. But if you don't get the act right, you will always move with a taxi. That is why we must get chapter 12 right. Discrimination of women, very important. You can see, I was in a meeting with the House of Traditional Leaders, is mainly male. 95% is male. There's less females, but did we ever ask the policies and the act of this country? We say, we proclaim there outside to say woman representative, woman leadership. When last did you invite a female woman of the Free State QwaQwa Council to any meeting? When last did you invite any female woman to any of the Indabas? When last did you invite any female of the QwaQwa, the Korana, the Nama, the Cape Koi to any policy formulation? When last did you recognize to say at least I can adopt a female in the free will to place in the MEC's office of this formulas? When last did we think to take a female and put a female in the Premier's office? When last did we recognize to say, when we go to our legotas, we bring the female of the Khoi and the San into perspective? But what are we doing currently? An active legislative that champions democracy. Is it really the truth? What we experience. And you know, leadership, I'm talking now about more than 30 years experience that we experience. I like this, Chairperson. You invite us to speak freely out today. We say, according to the bill, we must recognize 1/3 of our female. It's going to be very difficult, Chairperson. You know, 1993, 1994, Nelson Mandela, the National Party, the transition stage. 2017, we have a new act. Where is the transition stage taking place behind the scenes to get us ready for the House of Traditional Leaders? Where is it? Where is it? It's all quiet. Why don't you adopt us in the meantime in the House? 2017 is already 3 years ago. There is buildings and offices that are standing empty. And you could have brought us in, but we don't rope us in. So the question is, are you serious about us as the Khoi and San communities in South Africa? Leadership, this is a thorny issue according to the bill. You can't say that our traditional leaders with authorities must be after 5 years be re-elected. I mean, that is a shame and that is embarrassment to leadership. We can rather say, according to the Act, after 5 years, we can restore the managerial positions, but not the traditional leader who was firstly recognized by virtue of the Premier. That we can maybe agree about. Item 9, Chairperson, I'm almost there. Indigenous people are based in traditional areas of which land is the cornerstone on which customs, traditions are practiced on. Traditional authorities must be recognized with land as a secondary factor. So this bill can't speak in vacuum to us. The bill must say to recognize the Khoisan communities, land will be the secondary, no, the prime factor that will be determining your recognition. Leadership, how many state land is there? Since 1994, what is the statistic saying? How many state land is there? Who of these people have land? Yes, they throw us in here in a Batani with all confusion and conflux of communities who are fighting left and right. You even have pluckers there who come from Cape Town and come and claim and say they come and destroy our communities out of the customary laws and the traditions. Why don't we make this thing very serious? Legislature, when we start to talk about these things, I will at least, when we get out of here, give us a letter and start with a female. Give one female here a letter of transport to say, there's your farm. That was a state land. Give it to her. So that she can make business for our people who's living in poverty, because majority of them who's sitting here is unemployed. Majority. There's nobody here who's employed. They don't have a job for themselves. So that is a very, very important thing. Leadership, leaders have spoke about the premier. All respect to the political head. The only challenge that I'm having, leadership, with this topic, the premier is right. We can apply it to the premier, all right? But then after the premier, we must send it to the minister of COCTA. After the minister of COCTA, we must send it to the president. The president, the same that you've done with the Zulu King, you've signed it off and appoint him. And we all listened last week about the court case that the president had to take an irrational decision on the appointment of the Zulu King. But now you say the premier must determine us here. And where is the authority? To whom are we running? You know, leadership, when we are political squabbles in the Free State, the premier is going to close your door and shut you. To say, you talk too much, let's shut you here. And then we destroy you and we push you back. It can be the ANC, it can be the DA, it can be the EFF. We don't care, but we want to say, let it be transparent to measure our existence. Leadership, I'm almost there. There's only 4 points that is coming. There's only 4 points that are coming. I'm almost there. Chairperson, the bill needs to recognize.
You want to drink water and get more energy?
Winding up now.
Okay.
Now I'm winding up. Leadership, you know, now I'm winding up. I'm just getting hot now. I haven't started. I'm starting now. Colleagues, the bill needs to recognize and complement the following. All articles of the United Nations declarations and the rights of indigenous peoples must be recognized. I mean, our bill cannot consist in isolation here, in a vacuum. What's happening in the world outside there? People are fighting in the international laws and so on. And if we have a bill that is talking not to that international laws, I mean here, you'll get that problem when somebody landed with a helicopter one day with a big plane in South Africa, and he was not covered and so on because the law don't make provision for him. Now you have a law here in isolation on your own island. When you go to the United Nations, they will tell you, who are you? An indigenous person from South Africa talking your own things. We have a bigger picture because we are serving a more bigger picture. So there are indigenous peoples and rights of indigenous people. It needs to adhere to the international instruments which uphold the rights of indigenous people. National legislation must advance indigenous Khoisan communities in relation. Leadership, in relation with the Employment Equity Act. Hey, leadership, this thing of the Employment Equity Act is a thorny issue. I'm almost there, Chair.
When you speak, listening. Don't worry when my head and think that I haven't listened. I'm listening you attentively.
Thank you, leadership. This thing of the Employment Equity Act, it was now for the past 2 months a deep discussion in the country to say that certain people, and they classify it very nice, they say colored people will not be appointed in certain areas. Amen. Colleagues, we are sitting in Caribbean. Carib is the highest unemployed area in South Africa. State South Africa prove there's nobody who's working here. You can't get work. There's no economical self-sustainable programs that are available here. Now you still come with an Employment Equity Act we throw you. Where are you in this Employment Equity Act? Leadership, we must scrap this thing of Employment Equity Act. Those things were something very smart for then. 1996, we are over now. We are now maturing. We must say these people are the first priority of this country. I would love to see next year the Z83 must change and it must say Khoi and San, QwaQwa, Korana, Nama, Cape Khoi. So the moment we tick their leadership, you must know in your office, there's no QwaQwa. You can't appoint anybody. Your HR people must know the first people that you must appoint now for the next 10 years. It's only Khoi and San people. No people must be appointed. We must shut this down, thing down of appointing people now. Nobody must now be appointed now. Even appointed or promoted. Chairperson, in this Free State province, did you check the senior management in their employment equity status? What we have, for an example, we have only 2 or 3 from our cultural groups who are directors or deputy directors.
Sorry for, I've deliberately given more chance.
Just the last one, Chair.
Don't exclude other people. They have also made to contribute.
Thank you, Chair. I'm there. 2 points. 2 points, Chair. Thank you for that. The present concept of the traditional leadership cannot apply to the Khoi and San communities. We've listened to it, and that is a very thorny issue. We can't be treated the same as the traditional leaders in the Nguni group as per us. We have a too big backlog, so we must be treated differently. The bill needs to make provisioning that the Khoi San needs to have their own national house, provincial houses, the district houses, including the local house. Lastly, leadership. All above will be affected after the Constitutional Court outcomes are. Chairperson, we appreciate you. We love you as indigenous peoples of this area in South Africa, and we hope and believe that our inputs are well recorded and will find expression. I thank you.
Okay, if you are aware, you have taken almost everything for the people. I still have to give them chance. Let's get number 5.
It says, Nabekwa wa Kamakwena. My apologies.
Your starting point now. Cell phone.
My apologies. My dank aan traditionele leiers hier teenwoordig, die lede van die wetgewer, onze voorsitter vir die geleentheid en die volkere hier verteenwoordig vanoggend. Laat my toe myself voor te stel. My naam is Harold Beck en ek is Eiserbeck Korana. So eentjie hier vandaan, as mense net hier agter kyk, daar's 'n hek daar, die volgende hek, die volgende plase, dis waar my oupa hulle vanaf kom. In die geskiedenisboeke noem hulle dit Betani. Of Brandewynsfontein. En die mense wat in Ehrenburg is, die Korane wat in Ehrenburg is 1927 uitgesit daarso. So ek dink dit is nogals tekenend
dat ons nou hierso staan en praat van verteenwoordiging. Onze chief daar was Goliath Eiserbeck. Na hom Timotheus Eiserbeck. En ek wil net aan die wetgewer sê, dat ons al klaar verkeerd weggespring het. As jy gaan kyk na die titel van die wet, waar hulle praat van tradisionele en Khoisan leiers. Wat dadelik as ons gaan praat oor die probleme wat daar is in die wetgewing, soos die advokaat al reeds aangedui het, dat ons hierso te doen het met 'n tweede klas leierskap. So, kom ek begin dadelik deur te sê, ons ondersteun die wet soos hy hierso is. Maar ons moet dit op rekord stel, en dit is al deur 'n hele paar mense op rekord gestel. En vir volledigheid, soos die voorsitter aangedui het, wil ons dit duidelik maak dat ons dit eens is hierso. Almal van ons is dit eens. Daar gebreke in die wet is, en selfs in die voorgestelde wetgewing soos dit nou is, rondom gelykheid. Daardie ongelykheid kan gesien word in die buitensporige vereistes wat daar gestel word. Daar word nie van 'n Sotho of 'n Xhosa verwag om sy naam op 'n lys te gaan stuur, sodat hy toegang kan kry. En daar's genoem van die vorm ook. Nou, ek is redelik geleerd. Ek is redelik geleerd. Die vorm waarna die advokaat verwys het, is so onsamehangend. Hulle vra daar, en jy moet elke keer dieselfde goed oor en oor sê. Nou, ons is nie hier om te kla, net nie. Ek wil vra dat die wetgewer, ek weet nie of dit die portefeulje komitee sal wees nie, die werksaamhede van die kommissie op Khoisan aangeleenthede sal nader sodat daar koördinasie kan wees. En ek sê dit op 'n baie spesifieke rede. En die rede hoekom ek so sê is, Leier Kraalsoek het aangedui dat ons te doen gehad het met die wetgewing, die tradisionele leierskap en Khoisan wet. Toen dit nog 'n konsepwet was. En die moeilikheid wat ons gehad het is, daar het later mense ingekom wat nie 'n hart het vir tradisionele sake nie. Dis hoekom ons nou moet praat van take en van ander goed en van lyste wat gemaak moet word, omdat daar baie mense ingekom het wat nie tradisioneel georiënteer is nie. Nou vra ek, die wetgewer sal 'n baie belangrike bydrae kan maak, as hulle seker maak dat die twee prosesse, erkenning en verteenwoordiging, langs mekaar kan loop, sodat daar koördinering kan wees, sodat ons doodseker maak dat, sover het ons in die Vrystaat aankom, ons sit met 'n tradisionele huis wat werk, en wat die behoeftes aanspreek van die mense vir wie dit bedoel is. So, ons het baie van die probleme wat ons het, waaroor ek nou gekla het, ongelykheid en dies meer, kom as gevolg van die feit dat ons te doen gehad het met mense wat nie tradisionele gemeenskappe is nie. So, ek wil vra dat dit nie net 'n kwessie is dat ons hier so klaar oor die vorm nie, maar dat die kommissie kom met die hulp van die wetgewer, sodat daar 'n platform geskep word, sodat ons nie beklei oor die vorm nie, maar dat ons sê, hoorie, hier is ons storie, kom ons vul hy vorm in. Ek ken my geskiedenis. Ek het nie 'n historikus nodig om dit te doen nie. Dit is in die publieke sfeer. Maar ons moeilikheid wat ons het is, mense het ondersteuning nodig om doodseker te maak dat dit gaan werk. 'n Vorige spreker het aangedui wat kos 'n historikus, en vir baie ander mense is dit nie toeganklik nie. Ek sal baie kort wees. Nou, En dit sê ek nou in afsluiting in. Ek dink daar is baie stories om te vertel. Ons is nou in die Vrystaat. Ons weet die ANC het hierso begin. Waai. Maar voordat die ANC daar was dit tradisionele leiers wat die stryd aangevat het. Ons eerste sekretaris van die ANC was Sol Plaatjie, wat gebly het op 'n Korana sendingstasie. En wat alreeds op baie stadium deur die leierskap van tradisionele leierskap die stryd om vryheid vir ons gehad het en begin het waar ons nou staan. Ek dink dit skryt en skande dat ons oor 3 jaar gaan ons 100 jaar vier wat ons van ons grond afgesit is. En dat ons nou eens in die hof kom om ons eis te besleg. Baie dankie meneer die voorsitter.
One thing that I will request, the input that you have made. This is the Provincial Committee. We want that as much as you verbally want it in writing, so that it's going to help us. I think up to so far, I'm extremely overwhelmed with the input that I said earlier on, spot on. And I'm not here to impress you. We are not here to impress you. We want to listen to you. But I think you are speaking directly to what we've came here about. Yes, Mene.
Dankie meneer de voorzitter. Die kans praat. Naam is Russell Brown. Ek kom van Springfontein af. Die eens besigste, pragtigste ekonomiese dorp in die Suid-Vrystaat. Wat nou in 'n spookdorp verander het as gevolg van interne politieke gevegte. Mense beklei vir posisies, maar hulle vergeet die ander mense agter wat vir hulle stem. Hy dorp hy bestaan nie meer nie. Okay. Net om almal welkom te heet en baie dankie Mr. Chair vir die geleentheid. En dat ek kan toespreek. Ek het 2 kort puntjies. Baie dankie vir die tolkers, vir die bestuur, van die staf, alle lede, Koranas, QwaQwas wat die is, gemeenskap van Edenburg en Betani daar agter sien ek. Ek het 2, ek gaan kortliks wees. Mr. Chair, die vorige sprekers, almal is van verskillende areas. Maar as ek daar sit en luister, ons praat almal een taal. Ons praat dieselfde ding. So ek gaan niemand se tyd mors nie, ek gaan net 2 puntjies uithaal wat ek graag wil deel. Okay, Mr. Chair, dit wil vir my voorkom dat die bil opgestel is deur politieke leiers. Nergens is daar van die kooi in die san volksleiers geken in die proses wat die bil opgestel is. Okay, met ander woorde, die premier as 'n politieke leier sit met die kooi en die san se lot in sy hande. Hy kan ons maak of hy kan ons breek. Okay. Die ander puntjie is nêrens in die bil word daar van enige vergoeding of staatshulp gepraat om die kooi en die san leiers te help of te vergoed nie. Goed. Net die laaste puntjie wat ek het is eintlik 'n request en ek gaan dit in Engels sê dat dit kan duidelik uitkom. Okay. As Khoi San, we seek representation in all boards, national, provincial, district, and local government. I thank you.
Okay. I can tell you now, all of you that spoke here, I think you actually deal with it. No one deviated. Regtig. Julle het presies gepraat. En ek is baie bly vir dit. Laat ons kom hierdie kant. If you have listened to the speakers, they have made clear submission to the bill. You have heard that. And that's why I've said, all of you that have spoken, I am requesting, please give us those written submission like yourself. We already have it, your written submission. Right. So I request that others must give us those. Let me take the hands here. Okay. It's two hands. Come this side. You had an opportunity of listening to the speakers that spoke before you. Yes. You take the platform, number one. Can I request that those that have spoken, don't make a mistake and move out and not listening other people what they say. Don't make a mistake, because this is a public hearing. A particular view will be advanced here, and your responsibility as a leader is to also assist and convince that person. Don't leave it to us and say, I have told them and that's it. It's a democracy. People contest views here. Ndate, can I?
Dumelang. Ka lebitso ke Tshidiso Ibrahim Chabalala.
Jy sien wat hy sê. Hy sê het 'n kans gemis. I will not be taken backward. All right? I may be tough on that one. I will not be taken backward. When people are sitting in the hall and they are speaking, you go out. And when you want to come back, you want to speak, no. It doesn't work that way. But for cooperation's sake, I'm going to allow you. But don't do it again. Don't do it again. You can sit here. You were sitting from which side? This side. You see, I've long identified people on this side. He comes after and say, please recognize me. This tells me that you wanted to hear what other people are saying before you can make your own contributions. No, we don't work that way. We have to be corrected up front. But anyway, take a seat. Yes, Ndar.
Thank you, Chair. Ka lebitso ke Tshidiso Ibrahim Chabalala. Ke hlaya Forest Smith. So re ke kgone ho ntsha maikutlo ka hantle ke tlo bua ka Sesotho. Ha ke kgone ho bua Afrikaans language tse. Ke dumedise chairperson and executive, the royals from all areas of Harib and also the community. So basically, I'm going to view out this name Chabalala. You hear most of the time, this name Chabalala. We are everywhere in South Africa. There is a secret behind that. We know our history. Even if when a government comes to us, tell them, who is Chabalala? Where do we come from? Even Swaziland, they're celebrating Chabalala. That is why I'm so proud about being Chabalala, because at home we were taught our own history as Ama Chabalala. It is written in 4 ways, but it's still the same. Either you speak in Venda, either you speak in Tsonga, Sotho, even the colors are the colors who are Chabalalas. So Chabalala became the first name in South Africa to multiply itself to all provinces in here. I wanted Mr. Chabalala to be here to confirm with me. We also have our own book at a record, so that the next coming generations ba kgone ho utlwisisa hore now where do we come from, who we are. Chair, I'm not here to tell more about the Chabalala. I'm here to speak about this. Actually, this is very painful for me because it's still mentality of PW Botha. This is from PW Botha. Remember in the 1970s, when PW Botha was under the pressure of economic from a sanction from other country, he took the colored in and said, no, the blacks are not welcome in. So the colored were given opportunity to go into the parliament. They were given the district. They were given even support. It is, yeah, this is a current history, it's not me. So the idea of Botha was actually to exclude the African people specifically. Reason why? Genetics. I'm a professional nurse. I completed my honors degree in 2017. The same year when this act was busy. So I was not interested in it because I was also persuading the real history of this country. Colors, black, we are all going to fight. Let me tell you that. Because it's a mentality of P.W. Botha. He wrote it down. So what happened is that with the legislature, I'm going to make an example with one compact I had with the legislature with marijuana. We got a disrespect from this hall, disrespecting a Rastaman. Yet, but today, they are here telling us the legislature of marijuana, but they don't know who were behind this. It was the Rastaman. Yet, this community is showing us the disrespect again. So how can this legislator eat the Khoi said? Firstly, let me separate the Khoi and the Sen. The Khoi and the Sen were not living together. It was Khoi, it was Sen. So I've come from the 11th generation from the Khoi, not the Sen. My great-grandmother looked like Sarah Batman. Small nose, big cheeks, short, big bums, big hips, big breast. I'm sorry for the language. Because the critic of legislature is to copy what apartheid did. Now they're modernizing this idea so that it can fit everyone. So the question they had the opportunity in the 80s, in the 70s. PAC, ANC, they came together and we were fighting amongst ourselves. Where was P.W. Botha? In his home, sitting down. Because from the perspective of all these acts is to exclude us, not to accommodate us. I want to take the history of the Afrikaners. It's beautiful. I love it. And this thing of racism, I don't know where the Afrikaners came with. The first Afrikaners who came here, they were not racist. Let me tell you that. They were not racist, the first Afrikaners. Afrikaners went to Britain and studied racism and came back. Now, in the 1930s, now they started putting the same acts. You have to apply. Why do you have to apply? Huh? They must make the recognition by themselves. They have top people who can do the research. They can go and investigate and collect the information from the community, not by putting the application form for you to fill it in. What are you going to fill it in? Because the current question is a mixed breed of all these races. How are you going to identify yourself? The colored in Durban, they are not speaking Afrikaans. The colored in Limpopo, they are not speaking Afrikaans. So how can you individualize yourself because you are here in Kharib? You must generalize South Africa. This act is going to be our challenge. I want to give each and every, even including the executive, to make a proper research. I have this book. I found it in Forest Smith. It was written in somewhere in 1987. It tells us the story about the Ngonis. We were prospering during the 1800s. We were rich, more than the white people. In 1652, when Jan van Riebeeck came here, he got a clear instruction from Britain, from all other way. Do not colonize South Africa. Do not colonize South Africa. But it happened. The Dutch took the decision to colonize. There is where the Khoisan lost their history. It's not here in the 1800s. It's not here in the 1900s. You lost your history in the 1652 when Jan van Riebeeck met the first Khoi people there in Cape. That's why we have the Khoi Cape. What is Khoi Cape? It is not our original names. Now we will be here speaking big words, Chairperson. socialism, capitalism. People, let's go there and vote. We did not have such thing in our communities because we lack this. We don't read. I spent 10 years at the university with the one purpose. I want to understand how come most intelligent people in South Africa, I'm saying 1652, we are not supposed to be colonized, but we end up being colonized. Now, we are taking this is a colonization again, against this question. Who are colonizing the question currently is the Nguni, the Zulu, the Sotho, everyone is colonizing. We know, even myself, I know I come from the Khoi origin, myself, I know. But for a legislator to decide on our behalf, our kings must be there. I supported that thing of helicopter. Our king must be respected, not on the basis of racial history, based on South African history. I'm telling you, in 2 years' time, we'll be discussing the same legislator. Go and read about the Urban Act, Mr. Chair and Executive. It's called I think it's the Bantu Urban Act. You are still practicing it. I can tell a lot about these acts. When I go to my history as Chabalala, we were fighting with the Britons in the side of Limpopo and Mpumalanga. Before Muswati, the second, destroyed our house as Aba Chabalala. After we won the war with the Afrikaners, then Swaziland was given a land. How possible is that? And the king is still on top of all these politics. The king is still on top, and we are still respecting Mswati even today. We are respecting Mswati because he doesn't follow these legislators. He's not following this legislation. We can't have this conversation. I'm 32 years old. I'm 32 years old, but yet I have not achieved anything from this government. I'm not blaming the apartheid regime. Botha took a decision. I went to the same university that was teaching, who's this president? Ferfur. I went to the same university. I studied psychology. The same way. Ferfur came with this concept from psychology and divided us through this legislator. This legislator is the division. We have to be the one telling the community what we want, what you want, not what the government wants you to do. Because there are still farms that are owned by the minority, the white people. They are not being handed over. They are paying 500 for 500 hectares. And they are having what we call this thing bond. You are paying for 90 years. How possible is that? So we cannot be able to revive the history of the Khoisan because of the mixed breed that was happening. I learned that in genetics. We cannot. We have to be one thing here. We have to speak for everyone in here. I spoke to my youngest brother. I said, you know what? South Africa should nationalize Afrikaans. It imposed this idea wrongly in 1976. We should impose Afrikaans. Afrikaans should be a central language. The reason being, we want to revive those Khoisan because they lost their language as well. So we cannot heal them if we are still speaking English. It's a confusion to them. We must speak Afrikaans. Afrikaans should be an idea, not in a form of racial. Because if we are racializing this language, we won't be able to achieve our goal. So, Chairperson, in closing, I will say, go home, individual. I have this book. I think I'm the 5th person to read this book in Forest Smith. I was so very disappointed. It's standing there. I read this book. For the first time, I knew that in 1994, we were not the first time we were voting. We were voting here in Aluel North. 1994 was not the first time we were voting. We were voted long time in the 1800s. So that mentality has been built up. So this legislator, I'm telling you, is going to fail because we are still divided amongst ourselves. We don't know our history. Africans became Christian now in 1930. Otherwise, we didn't have any Christian on top. Because that is another thing that is destroying us. Religion, we don't have one religion. All these whites, they have one religion. All these Japanese, they have one religion. We are lacking what we call the psychological understanding of who we are. We depend on the legislator to come and decide for us. Or tomorrow we're going to get a job. Okay, come. Yeah. We like grouping ourselves like mice, running after a cheese, while we know we can make cheese at home. So the aim of the legislator is just to give you an idea. Don't copy this. Go home. Do personal introspection, analyze yourself. Learn your history. Even the chairperson will agree with me. During 1900, people were attending what we call missionary schools. There were no schools. There was no schools. There was missionary school. There was a mission behind why black people were sent to school. So we have so much European knowledge, European understanding, chairperson, European everything. We are modernizing everything to the European concept, in which is wrong. We are not advocating for ourselves. My grandmother died when I was still 13 or 14. My mother died when I was 10 due to problem of HIV. My mother had HIV, transmitted to my mother. I was born in the 90s. So everyone who was born in the 90s will tell you how horrible those days were. I went to school in 1998. I was born in 1991. I went to school in the year 1998. But I didn't learn so much. So much. I started becoming aware of this world. When I get to the university, I sit next to the white man. I say, hey man, this is our history. This is what we are doing. We're not going anywhere. We have these political differences amongst ourselves. We have these economical differences amongst ourselves. Currently, I'm a chairperson of NCASA, National Cooperative Executive here in Free State. I was advocating for Harib. I was advocating for Harib. The reason why I was advocating Harib, you are at a 2.5 level to 2.5 production level. You are not producing anything as such. You are those people who are going to say, okay, let me donate to Harib. So take this legislator, go home. You will see, apply it to your home. If it doesn't work, come back. Tell the legislator it's wrong. And this thing of disrespecting our kings, our queens, that's why I'm so proud of being Chabalala. And I will tell my children to be proud. Even the Afrikaners will tell me more about me. Oh, hey, your great-grandfather used to do this and this, because we were farmers. So let us go home, analyze this legislator. We are going to talk everything. Let us be united. Already we have a town chairperson.
Go towards conclude.
Yes, Askido. Already we have a town chairperson. I've already proposed it on a national level of NCASA. We must go and put an industry in those places already. Because we are not going to start from scratch. You see? So those people, we must take their own history and cut it down. They has already provided with a document that we have a document that can prove we have been the owners of this land. Go there, farm, put more investment in, send those children there. If you can't, you don't have any idea, read about Putatswana. Then there is where we'll get the idea. Thank you very much, my chair.
Second last.
Greetings. Greetings, Mr. Chairperson, and greetings to all the leaders and the traditional council, he said. My name is Johannes Modise. I'm a mixed blood of Khoisan and Joanna. Mr. Chairperson, laat ek hom in Afrikaans gooi. Taal wat die myne is. Dis my taal nie. My eerste story was the Department of Education. Wat gaan ons maak as die bill klaar geïmplement is? Want onze kinders nou kan nou nie hulle se tale praat by die skool nie. Want die tani praat die kwe, as die kind by die skool kom, die kind praat Afrikaans. Die van die skool afkom, kom vra hy die Tannie, wat is dit in Afrikaans? Die Tannie ken nie. So die Department of Education, ek kan vir Mr. Chairperson terugbring. 2 dekade gelede het die Provincial Government of Education gekom in hierdie district van Karib district. Toe kom implementeer hulle Sesotho en al die Tswana skole in. En vandag, die skole het nog steeds daardie name. En vandag, die locaties het nog steeds die selfde name, Tswana name. My kind loop Sotho skool. Hy kry huiswerk daar by die skool. Hy kom vra vir my, wat meen 'n rainbow in Sotho in? Ek ken nie. So kommunikasie is baie belangrik. So as ons die Khoisan, die Nama en al die gemeenskappe aanvaar, dan kom ons eerst hier by die Department of Education. Want is 'n probleem. Hy is besig om die kindsgedagte deur mekaar te maak. Want as ek in QwaQwa praat om te sê hy is pap, dan sê die kind vir my in Afrikaans hy is pap. Hoe gaan ek die kind my taal leer? Ek sê die kind my kind die taal leer. En die tweede storie is die, Mr. Chairperson, die Department of Home Affairs. As ek nou vir hulle moet gevra het vandag, wie is ek? As my ouma 'n QwaQwa is en my oupa is 'n Khoisan, wat noem jy vir my? Of my ouma is 'n Tswana en my oupa is 'n Nama, wat noem jy vir my? Waar vertaal moet die kind praat? Afrikaans is die Khoisan se language, as ook die Nama se language, al daardie mense, as hulle se language, hulle was gekoloniseer. Tot ek vandag, ek praat die taal. Ek kan Sotho ook praat, ek kan Tswana ook praat. Maar die boere het seker gemaak, hierdie Afrikaans kom in die gedagte. Mr. Chairperson, die 2 departments is baie belangrik as sulke dinge geïmplementeer word. Ons het nou 'n probleem daar op Smutsdrif. As die kinders van die skool afkom, dan is daar after school program, daar waar die kinders die QwaQwa geleer word. Baie mooi. Ons gaan Appington toe, daar is nou skole nou wat daar is. Ons wil die skole moet ook gerecogniseer word. En even in Karib district. Ek like wat ek dink die leader number 4 of number 5, hy het gegroet en omtalen. Die tafel was doodstil. Want daar is 'n interpreter wat kan gesê het, wat praat die leierskap hier nie. So dis ook 'n probleem. Die taal is baie belangrik. Mr. Chair, ek is 'n visboer. Ek is die voorsitter van Karib Fish Farmers Association. En jy sal dit nie glo nie. Majority van die jeug wat daar is under 30. Hulle is van die Khoisan gemeenskap, hulle is van die QwaQwa gemeenskap en hulle is van die Tswana gemeenskap. Mr. Chair, as ons praat van job opportunities, daar is die job opportunities geen vir hierdie regie. Ek het my eie geld gevat, my own money. Toe vat ek hierdie kinders se dam toe, Kalkfontein dam. Mr. Chair, hy was aan Tronsburg gewees. Toe sê ek om die storie, en ek praat dit weer vandag. As ek doodgaan vandag, wat kom word van die jeug? En die jeug is die enigste plek, daar wat hulle se language kan embrace of culture. Mr. Chair, vandag, ek staan weer hier vandag. Ek wil vir Mr. Chair ander ding lees wat die premier gepraat het. Ek gaan hem nou lees. The Honorable Premier said we have developed a social compact for a shared commitment between government and the people of the Free State Province. Ek like die woord. Die tweede ene sê, the district development model aims to tackle the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment to ensure that the needs of communities are met. Our needs, are they met? Nee. Ek beklei nou nog 13 jaar vir 'n vispermit. 13 years for a fish permit. 2021, 2022. Ek het 'n volle jaar research gedoen op Kalfonteindam met my eie geld. Kinders se kos gekoop en alles. Ek was in skulde gelos. En vandag, hy was die enigste plek vir die Khoisan visboere. Ons praat van fish anglers, subsistence, fish cage culture, a small scale fisheries, net cage culture. Gaan kyk hulle vandag, ek kan hulle bring en sit ek hulle hier vir jou. Dan sê ek, wie is jy? Hy kom sê jou, ek is 'n Khoisan. Wie is jy? Nee, ek is 'n naam. Wie is jy? Hy kom sê jou. Sy gene. Van 'n colored bestaan uit 'n Khoisan uit en 'n boer. Hy is 'n colored. My leadership. Ek wil die ding reg kry.
No, give him his right to speak.
Thank you, leadership. My leader, the triple challenges of the district main model. Garib Fish Farmers Association, regtig vra vir julle vandag. Ons soek net die permit. Ons is getrain in aquaculture, daar by Garib Dam. We were trained by the Chinese, we were trained by Rhodes University, we were trained by UOPS. We are trained aquaculturists. Ons boer in die binnekant, with recirculation aquaculture systems. That one on the dam, we call it small scale fisheries. Where you are on the boat, catching harvest with nets, different nets, fake nets, sin nets, long lines, you call them. My leadership. It is expected the province economy will grow at an average of 1.5% to 2026 and will still contribute 4.9% to the country's GDP. My leadership, in 2021, Garib district had the lowest average annual economic growth rate, averaging 3.12%. 2022, it declined to 3%. That's very bad. There are no jobs. No jobs. Wat word van die kinders as ek nou doodgaan? No later. If I can die now, it's finished with them. I did follow all the procedures. At Kalkfontein Dam. The STIA was mandated to assess the potential. My leadership, die Khoisan gaan dood die buite. Die QwaQwa, daar wat ek van afkom, as QwaQwa's ensign. En ek is bly as die leadership hier is vandag. Ek is bly wat die leadership gesê het, elke dorp moet sy tyding vorm. En ek sal vra vir die leadership. 'n Leader van die Khoisan gaan nie gekies word as hy gene deur mekaar is nie. So, lastly, ek wil net weer eens vra. My leadership, is it my disability of is it my identiteit wat maak dat julle nie kan hierdie permit issue nie? 13 jaar. Was het 'n structure